Well, ultimately, I was born as Tony Wesley, but as my career grew, my name around the world is Mr. Wave
Right.
from the original New York City Breakers.
Tell me how you came to be part of the New York City Breakers.
Well, it's a long story. I was growing up, just got out of group home in the early 80s, lived in the projects. The guy came up to me on a motorcycle. We were going down shopping for a Shirley, a sheepskin. That was a cool thing back in the early 80s. And he approached me and said, listen, could you do me, you're a dancer. I had on we had press-ons, and it said Dr. Electric, Electric Boogie King.
Yep.
I said, they said, audition is downtown. You should come. And generally, we don't leave our neighborhoods back in those days. Distrust. You're talking about black and brown now. So yeah, I decided to go down there. And it was odd because when I went down there as Dr. Electric, and I was practicing in the corner, I realized what that scene was because we were going to dance for a president. So I'm coming out of the projects and now auditioning to dance for Ronald Reagan and Katherine Dunham, at the Kennedy Center Honors. And I had a moment and I said, I gotta get this. So before I actually practiced, I was on the corner I looked at everyone and took all the routines, all the styles, and I was collaborating them, combining them. And then Michael Holman, my guy to this day, saw it. And he said, hey, went to Chino, another one of our dancers, and says, I want to talk to him. He called me over, called me outside before the practice started or the audition started. He said, hey man, would you want to join the crew? So I went there to go dance for a president, and I came out dancing for the New York City Breakers. What was so dope about it, remember my name was Dr. Electric.
Right.
And Chino looks over to me and said, you so dope, bro. We're going to name you Mr. Wave. And in those days, if you were named by someone in our hood, in our areas, you were kind of like a made man. So my name traveled much further than we did in the beginning. Borough to borough, city to city, after Beach Street countries.
Yeah. Tell me about what the Bronx was like back when the Breakers were moving around and you were dancing there. Tell me what the energy was like, how the Bronx contributed to that, what it was like.
Well, there are levels in this thing.
Yeah.
So people always say, well, you weren't there or you didn't do this, but demographics was thick and technology was thin. So all you had is word of mouth. So where I lived at was not where some of my brown brothers lived. They lived in a nicer area.
Right.
I'm straight from the streets, the projects, 169th Street, abandoned buildings. Our playground was bricks and mortar that was torn out of structure.
Right.
And that's where we we called it a concrete jungle. So there was not a lot of opportunity for a kid like me because it was an area that was destined for destruction. And they allowed us, though, the freedom, as long as we weren't committing crimes, to do what we do. And that's how hip hop was not developed, but elevated. And that's how come it morphed, because they gave us the privacy and the time. We'd be up to 3, 4, 5 in the morning. Super dope.
Yeah. Tell me, what's one of your favorite moments from your career in breaking?
I have to say my favorite moment was when Michael Holman asked me to become a New York City Breaker. That was the first time a man gave me that respect. And the better moment was when I was on that stage and looking at all those people coming out of the projects and had to realize that I was nervous and I knew my opportunity was coming, and I had to say to myself, I see everyone but no one. And so that gave me insight.
Yeah.
To ability to see what was actually truly happening. I didn't take it for granted ever after that.
Yeah. And how does it feel 40 years later to see this sport now on the world stage at the Olympics? How does that make you feel?
Well, the reason why I'm not mad at it is because I was doing a class at Pace University a couple of months ago. And while we were giving the class, A young lady said something to me. That's why you can always learn. And she said to me, you know, I keep hearing you guys say OG and this is 50 years in. But when you measure this to all the other dance styles in the world, we're in our incubation period. So the fact that this is a new dance that has elevated from the streets of the Bronx to the Olympics, what it does more than anything, it teaches the babies. What it did for us, it allowed us some kind of guidance, some kind of power to know that we were doing something that millions and millions of people could not do, allowed us to move forward through the world and take direction. Because if we had stayed in those Bronx streets, where would we be? What would we be doing? Would I be here, this articulate with a 7th grade education, to be able to explain this? It was my walk through the culture. So now what you have is that we did it ourselves. We had no blueprint. We had no teachers. We did it all ourselves. And now for these babies who love this dance, because it's a freedom, it's a spiritual thing, to actually see some of their young boys and girls on that platform, on that stage, it's inspiring to them. But it also will teach them quite a few things. It'll teach them how to be in control, how to be understanding, how to work as a team at an early age, how to be consistent and how to structure and how to be determined to win. That's what the Olympics does for me.
Yeah. And then tell me, I know you've partnered with Quizlet. Why is that important? Why was working with a group that's going to bring this to the younger generation? Why is that important to you?
Well, I have to be honest and tell you, it's more than important to me. Because whenever, you know, a lot of us did not get through school. We didn't go to anybody's college. We learned from our streets. And if I was, let's say I was a kid in college and I went to Europe and I did a thesis, I get a degree.
Right.
We are degreed. So what Quizlet shows is that we have the ability to teach on a collegiate level. And so it also will help people who does not or do not understand the dance for what it is. It's not so much about the dance, it's about the elements. So I partner with Quizlet to talk about the venture now, but they agreed that we should go back a little bit and let people understand what this means to us, what it means to society, because we're in our incubation period. And now the kids get to see it on a learning platform. And another thing that I did, and I tried strategically to do this, is build it out as a blueprint. So anybody that has been there, my brothers and sisters, the legends, they could take that and modify it and continue to teach. We should be in colleges. We should be in boardrooms, as Michael Holman likes to say. But we haven't had those opportunities. So Quizlet is a real dope partner because they got it. They understood. And, you know, I have a great relationship with them. This is very much so needed because you have countries that everybody's sending out a different message. Most of us talk about ourselves. The Quizlet platform talks about the culture.
That's really well said.
Thank you so much.
And my last question for you is, you mentioned the elements. What would the elements be that make up the culture of breaking? So
the rumor has, in the beginning of the elements, there were 4 elements.
Sure.
The 5th element being knowledge. So what you had is you had the DJ, you had the MC, the master of ceremony, now they call the rapper. You have the graffiti artist and you had the b-boy. What people don't understand, I explained this in Quizlet, is b-boy means not breaker. It means much more than that. They lumped all the styles up under b-boy. So it's the boogie boy, the breaking boy, the Bronx boy, you know. And this all stems, just for the record, Black and Brown has always been together. You know, and people want to name the styles of dance they were doing in the early 70s to what they were doing, and they want to classify it as breaking. But rocking was there. And rocking was there, and it was very important because you top rock, you up rocked. Right. You went on down on the floor and you rocked. You know, so that's one of the true bases. But again, demographics, not a lot of technology. We get what we get. So Quizlet will kind of measure that and have it reshaped 1,000 times. Hopefully it'll program will last as long as the next 50 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what the elements are. There are really more elements. There's the beatbox and there's dress, fashion. I still do the fashion part because that was the first piece. We didn't have much. So when you had a pair of jeans and you had to go on the floor and rock and dance, you didn't want to get messed up. So I will give this to the Brown, to my Puerto Rican brothers. The blacks did not want to get dirty. We want to oppress the women. They had a dream and a drive, and it went beyond what they were supposed to do, and that's the reason why we are here in the Olympics.